This is the 2012 Mercedes C63 AMG that I'm selling on Cars and Bids, and this car marks the end of an era. You see, as emission standards increase around the world, car companies are forced to neuter and reduce the size of their engines, oftentimes adding turbo and turbo lag in order to make up for the lack of horsepower, but that is not the case with this car. Before they moved to the smaller 4-liter twin turbo in 2015, you were able to get this, an absolutely monstrous 6.3-liter naturally aspirated V8, making an incredible 481 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. That launches this car from 0 to 60 in a very impressive 3.7 seconds, which is supercar territory, and honestly at that point with just rear-wheel drive you're struggling with traction. Which is why you have these super meaty boys on the back of this thing. These are 275 R19s, just a crazy wide tire to put all that power down to the ground. And that is one of the many things that differentiates the AMG from the normal C-Class. You also have giant red AMG calipers on the front to slow this thing down. You have an upgraded hood with a big old bulge to make room for that giant 6.3-liter V8, and you have a cute little carbon fiber spoiler along the rear trunk lip. This car in particular does have modified mufflers to let that V8 scream. Give it a listen. And it has some nice upgraded BBS wheels all around to give it a good look and stance. Now moving on to the interior of the C63 AMG, you can see it's beautifully finished in red and black leather all around. You have wood trim that goes around the doors and the dash, but other than that, it's pretty standard Mercedes in here. Your center console does have a USB port and aux port, so you can use the audio system with a modern phone. You have a standard 2012 infotainment system, standard climate control, heated seats, and very conveniently located right next to your heated seat is the traction control off button, which I find hilarious. The fact that they placed that button there right in the center and like not on the side left of the steering wheel or anything kind of indicates to me that they thought you were going to be using the traction control off button just as much as you were going to be using the heated seats, which is honestly fitting with a car like this. While these seats are very pretty, they actually function really well. They're super comfortable, which you would expect for a luxury sedan. You have all the basic controls, but you also have these little sporty controls on the side of the seat, which control the lumbar and upper back, but it's also the bolstering. These sides can actually inflate and kind of lock you in here, so whenever you're doing 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, you can stay locked in place with your luxury 480 horsepower sedan. And another hilarious thing about this car is that not only does it have rear seats, but it is usable back here. After all, this is a 4-door sedan, but I'm 6 foot tall. I'm sitting behind where I would be sitting in the driver's seat, and I have plenty of room back here. The headroom, there's a little gouge up here that my head fits into, and sitting back here is not a problem at all. The theme of the front seats continues into the rear with the wood on the door seams, red leather, and black leather all around. This is a comfortable place to be. I would not mind doing a road trip back here, and it also very conveniently has car seat tie down, so if you want to do the max speed of 174 miles an hour down the highway, you can also have your baby back here. Very safe, of course. And continuing with the theme of practicality, this almost 500 horsepower super sedan has a very usable trunk. This area would fit a golf bag pretty comfortably, and it has the very thoughtful inclusion of grocery bag hanger clips. So that is the Mercedes C63 AMG. I think it's time to give it a test drive. All right, driving the C63 AMG, one of the last great V8s ever made. Throw it in the manual mode, turn off traction control because who are we kidding? And give her a little throttle. Woo! Yeah, that was immediate illegal speeds. Of course, I'm selling this car. I'm biased. I'm going to tell you it's a good car because I truly do believe it's a good car. Especially with the low miles and everything, this is just a perfect example of one of the best cars Mercedes ever made. And I mean, the noise is just... Oh, man. Hello there, assaulted neighbor. Not only can you do that, but you can roll up the windows, get onto a normal pedestrian street, and just cruise. It is very relaxing in here whenever you're not gunning it. After all, it is a Mercedes luxury sedan. And I think people who know these cars know how special they were. Especially whenever Mercedes got rid of their famous 6.3-liter V8 and put in the new twin-turbo, smaller 4-cylinder V8. Value of these instantly went up, and kind of the cult following behind them went up. Because it kind of solidified its space in history as being one of the last true, raw German muscle cars. Just from the ridiculous engine to the super muscular, boxy look, it's just one of the classics. Because of that, these sold very well. Which is crazy because these were relatively expensive at the time. For a C-Class at that time, you were paying around $90,000 in today's money, which is a good chunk of change for one of these. But still, people bought them, and man, can you tell why. Oh man. that just never gets old. While these were no Miata, the weight distribution was actually pretty good. And as you can see, I can turn in and throw it around and it does it very happily. Of course, you got to be careful having an instant 444 or 43 pound-feet of torque right at the bottom of your foot. It only takes a skilled driver to handle around some corners, but if you know what you're doing, you can definitely have some fun. Get onto the highway real quick. Yeah, that would literally never get old. Part of what made this transmission so good, it's a 7-speed, is the fact that it uses an actual wet clutch instead of a torque converter, so there's no slip. Once it locks up and it gives all the power to the rear wheels, just like a manual transmission does. So if you downshift and floor it, you get into that power band, you are instantly feeling every single pound-foot of torque that this thing makes. I'm going to do one more little acceleration for you guys onto the highway, because who doesn't love hearing this thing just absolutely rip down the road? This is with it in manual mode and traction control all the way off. All right, let's see what she got. And that's 75. Woohoo! Oh. Such a good car. And just throw her into comfort mode real quick. The suspension softens up a little bit, the throttle response softens up a little bit, and it's a very comfortable daily driver in here. So you can just cruise happy as can be on the way to your 9 to 5, knowing you have one of the coolest super sedans and naturally aspirated V8s that Mercedes ever made. So this Mercedes C63 AMG is a truly special car and one of the last of its kind. And especially this model with less than 14,000 miles is probably one of the best ones you're gonna find out there. So if you wanna go buy it, it'll be on carsandbids.com, link in the description. And thank you guys very much for watching.